Good morning, guys. My name is Tage Kene Okafor. I'm the TechCrunch reporter for Africa. It's good to be here, my first Web3 event. And joining me on stage, well, this is Dell. We have Fatima, we have Jake, and Berima, sorry. I think you guys can walk up to the stage, right? So. All right, so this first panel will be about the Web3 vision and, why we're here, the future of Web3 for Africa and, the world. Would you like to introduce yourselves, please? Okay.
Hello, everyone. Good morning. My name is Fatima Tambajang, and I head developer relations and startups for Nvidia. Nvidia is an AI company, 13th largest in the world, according to market cap, and we churn about 10 million in revenue. However, today I'm here in a personal capacity, and I'm really interested in blockchain and what it does for socioeconomic development.
Good morning, everyone. Good morning, everyone. I'm Titus Bawuah. I'm the co-founder to Web3 Accra, founder of Ghana Unity DAO. I run 3 verticals as an entrepreneur in sustainability, cultural impact, and tech. Thank you very much for joining us.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Berima Adjei, and I am co-founder of a company called Float. We're primarily in Nigeria and the US, but both founders are Ghanaian. I also do quite a lot of work in the Web3 space as well. Worked with a gaming company called Astra, and I'm basically a Web3 enthusiast. Thank you.
Yeah, good. Hello, everyone. My name is Jake of Bediako, and I am Youth Engagement Coordinator at the Office of the President. And then I also kind of do social media influencing here and there. But I am also the least experienced in Web3 talk and information and stuff on this panel. But I think when it comes to youth engagement and understanding what young people are into and going for, I have a bit of insight, so that's primarily why I'm here, I guess. But I'm here to learn as much as I am to share my insights, so I'm really excited to be here. Thank you.
All right, thanks guys for introducing yourselves. So the first question I'll be asking our panelists today is, why is Web3 important for Ghana and the whole of, and the whole of Africa? And I mean, Del, you can start, and others can take.
So that's a great question. As I mentioned previously, I feel that Web3 is important for Ghana and Africa because it's an opportunity to build a new industry, which is still relatively new. I mean, I've kind of been following this for 10 years now, where it started initially for me actually mining my own crypto and trying to put servers together and understand the sequences to build cryptography, right? So I've approached it mainly from a technical perspective. And I've seen what's happened in the last few years in the UK, I've seen what's happened in the US, and my view is why not Africa, right? Especially with the kind of talented people that we have. So I feel like it's been too long where we defer to other people doing it so that we can copy them. And I think we have an opportunity with Web2 to decide to build our own thing, right? And so I think it's important for Ghana specifically because Ghana's vision is it wants to become a tech hub. And if you want to become a tech hub, you have to be forward thinking. And if you're going to be forward thinking, you need to be where the ball is going to be, not where the ball is. And so for Ghana, that's my view. And at large, I just think it would be criminal for Africa not to harness the talent of the youth. And the youth is very much interested in tech, right? not necessarily all in the dimension of Web3, in various dimensions. But Web3 for me, and tech as a whole, requires minimal heavy lifting. You don't have to build bridges, you don't have to build roads. It does not require that. What it requires is IP and technical know-how. And some people are self-taught. Elon Musk is self-taught engineer. He's going to space. So you're telling me that in this population of 1.5 billion people where the youth dominates, we can't build a few more here? Absolutely.
All right, thank you. Fatima?
I mean, how do I follow after that? Well, I'll try. I think, could you repeat the question again?
Okay, so why is Web3 important for Ghana and the whole of Africa?
For Ghana specifically, I think Ghana, as Del rightly mentioned, has positioned itself as a tech hub. Google a few weeks ago opened the AI office, so I think that shows a lot. For Africa as a whole, I think when it came to mobile money and M-Pesa, for example, we leapfrogged financial technology. I think we can do the same again by utilizing Web3 technologies, especially blockchain, as a lot of transparency needs to happen in our system, from politics to economics and so forth.
All right, thank you. Jake, would you like to add to that?
No. No, so I mean, basically what they're saying, I always think about Web3. Every time I'm having a Web3 conversation, the first thing I think is, all right, Web3 is the future of the internet. And when I think about the future, I actually think about generations to come, young people coming, because I believe young people now are the present, so we are participating fully in what is Web 2 going on Web 3, right? But when you think about the world we're trying to build, it's for younger generations ahead, and we need to get a grip on designing what the future of work, which is actually the future of the internet, is going to look like. And so in a country like Ghana that is as forward-looking as we can be, I think it's important that we get ahead in that conversation and we lead that conversation for the continent like we've always done with every other progressive conversation on this continent. And that's where the Ghana factor really comes in and why supporting initiatives like this really matters.
All right, thanks. So the second question, Berima, you kind of touch on the first question that also leads to the second question. So we've heard a lot about, leapfrogging. We, as Africa, we missed out on the Web 2 opportunity, right? So for Web 3, we have to be in front of it. But it seems like in more developed markets in the US and the UK, right? These guys have startups that have kind of given us a huge gap in terms of, funding the most popular Web3 startups, right? Like NFT, OpenSea, for instance, Axie Infinity. Axie Infinity is Philippines, but I mean, you understand what I mean. So there is no single platform you can, say, okay, this is from Africa, and it's like, Africa to the world kind of thing. So how do we level the playing field, for Africa, for Ghana, for Africa, in comparison to like more developed markets?
So, for me, when I think of Web3 or I think of crypto and the blockchain, one thing that sticks out to me is just the permissionless nature of the platform. I mean, I definitely do not know, any African blockchain company at the scale of Axie or maybe even what's the name, Coinbase, but there are some really interesting projects, coming out of Africa. Before I dive into how to level the playing field, I think it's important to mention that, if you look and if you do your research, you'd find that many young people are building really interesting projects. Like I mentioned earlier, I worked on a gaming project called Astra, and Astra is this like really cool platform, metaverse platform, where people can go in and buy digital assets that they can then use to claim real life assets, and they've done a lot of interesting things. And I don't know how I'm going to share the link to everyone, but if you go on Twitter and you search Astra, you should find that. In terms of how to level the playing field, I don't believe there's much to do, beyond access to funding. It's building in the crypto space in itself is permissionless. As long as you do a really good job, as long as you build something that has utility, people are going to use it. I do think that, in addition to funding, one more thing we can do is just increasing the education and sensitization. I do feel like events like this, conferences like these are very critical in just spreading the word. There are quite a number of companies. I don't like to call it Web 2 because, it's still the same tech, but, there are quite a number of companies in the Web 2 paradigm, in Ghana and Nigeria. I just feel like if more people knew about the opportunities that existed in the Web 3 space, then, would have quite a lot more people building in the space as well. It's like just take your Python, Ruby, JavaScript knowledge and, just transfer it into the Web 3 way of thinking, like building on the blockchain. The underlying technology, for the blockchain is a distributed database, so it's still the same tech that, for the builders here, it's still the same tech that you're building on the SQL, the Postgres, but then the only difference is that, you just need to think of it in a more distributed manner. Yeah.
Okay, thank you. So before Del and Fatima add to that, so are you saying the problem is from, the builders or from the investors? Like, okay, people are not building enough, or investors are not investing enough in the Web3 space?
So I do have some experience raising funding for a Web3 company, and I do think that we had all the opportunities. To be honest, we got on calls with people from A16Z last year. So I don't want to say that investors don't want to fund, but there's just like a general funding problem for African companies. I feel like it's always been a trust problem, and companies like Paystack, Flutterwave have done a lot of work in leveling the playing field for African companies. I know that Float has also done quite a good job at also leveling the playing field for African companies. I do think that as time goes on and as we continue to build more interesting projects, as a whole, as the African continent as a whole should have it relatively easier to raise funding. I'm just going to chip in one last thing. I also do think that as the continent continues to prosper, founders from Paystack and Flutterwave are definitely super rich founders right now. And as the continent continues to prosper, these same people are definitely going to help foster, the funding efforts. We don't always. I don't believe that we always have to look outside for funding. And I saw Yele just got in. Yele is doing quite a lot of work, in the funding space in Africa as well. So that's how I feel.
All right, thanks. Del.
Yeah, so can you hear me? Yeah, so I think in terms of leveling the playing field, to the point around funding, I think one key component that I have noticed is there isn't a lot of inbound activity. So meaning there are not Africans investing in Africans, right? And that in itself is a problem. Not just on the continent, outside of the continent, where, minority founders are having these issues of raising funding from VCs that just don't invest with minority leadership. It's not racial, it's just the numbers are not there, right? And so I feel like inbound, we have to look at how we improve the ratio of Africans investing in Africans. We need to, that needs to change, right? And then I think in terms of also developing talent, right? Training people who have the capacity to work for other major Web3 businesses or other tech companies. Africa should be seen as a place where talent can be headhunted. And I think at the moment that's an area that we are still far out. And those are the things we probably need to tackle to bridge that gap. Those are the main areas for me. And then relating to your first question before that.
The first one was why Web3 is important. I think you answered.
No, not that. I mean, you gave a two-part question.
Oh yeah, I was saying, are developers not building enough or investors not investing enough?
Okay, yeah. So investors are not investing enough. The developers are here. It's not that they're not here, just the training, right? And access to the training is very limited, you know. One other aspect of this is policy. The policy needs to change. I personally, for example, have had conversations with, you know, the central bank here, and it's not like they're seen as the bogeyman, which I understand. You know, they have shut down a few projects, right? But we also have to look at this two ways. So on one side, Africa in general takes a conservative view when it comes to, like, at least financial risk, specifically Ghana. You have to literally like collateralize everything if you're going to get some sort of loan, etc. But there are things that have happened that have led to that. For example, men's gold, you know, all these Ponzi schemes that have lost people tons of money. Which is why when we were approaching this, we approached it from a perspective of investing first, rather than asking anyone for money, including governments. And so that is an area that makes the central bank conservative. On the other side, what they want to do is find people with projects that have genuine utility. And if there's genuine utility, then you can collaborate with them effectively. So based on my discussion, that was the message, is that they have to be conservative due to A, B, C, D, and be responsible, but they're also very open because they don't want to miss out, right? And they're actually a lot more astute than we think. So these are all the components that need to come together for us to bridge the gap.
Okay, thanks. Fatima.
Sure, I'll probably, can you guys hear me?
Not very well.
I'm going to just tie in my answer to what Berima mentioned. So he spoke on funding, education, and collaboration and training. I'm being biased probably here, but my former manager and a good mentor of mine called Tage Kene started a Web3 company called Mara. Mara recently raised 20 million. They're based out of Kenya and they're doing amazing work. They currently have a hackathon going on, and they're doing that in collaboration with Antler, which is an early stage VC company. So they're training hundreds of developers, and then there is a prize of $100,000 for a solution that's won. And all the developers are working on a solution regarding last mile payment delivery when it comes to fintech. So I do think there are people around the continent who are doing the work and the opportunities. It's just everybody's working in a silo, so nobody really knows what everyone is doing. So I think those are perhaps the challenges that we're currently facing. Nestcoin is also here. They're also doing work in the space. Berima's in fintech. We have Kofi Jemfi, who's been doing the work since 2017 with Mazuma, a project I was also involved in. So yeah, there's things in the space. I think it's just awareness.
So thank you for that. And the awareness bit leads to the third question about how do we bridge the gap between this current generation, the youth, and the older generation, the Web2 guys, right? So I think Jake can start, then Berima can add to that.
Yeah, right. I think with everything, bridging generational gaps is actually about intergenerational dialogues and showing value, improving value of whatever, proving your concept and proving the value of your concept to how it's going to add to what currently exists. So that it starts with initiatives like this. It starts with the work that Berima is doing. It starts with the work that you all are doing in fintech and the Web3 space, because when numbers don't lie. If you see that this is actually the next generation, this is actually fetching what previous generations did in decades in shorter period of time. It's bringing the kind of development we're looking for. It's bringing the kind of traction we're looking for. It's not hard to sell, right? And a lot of the time, I think the conceptual nature of things and the way we as custodians of the present and future look at things is very, very different from someone who has, let me put it a nice way. Someone who grew up in a different era, right? Whose worldview was shaped in a different era. We can't take that for granted, and we can't really expect flexibility and malleability of a generation that has formed their worldview. I always think about that even with our generation, millennials. Now, look at how we attack Gen Z. Like, through snide remarks and everything, but we are gearing up, if we are not careful, to be another generation of dinosaurs, right? And so how do we work against that? How do we push that forward? It's actually about putting ourselves in their shoes and then also developing something that actually bridges the gap in a conceptual and tangible way.
Okay, Berima.
So like Jake said, I feel like the way to do that is through utility, so one of the problems that I personally have with crypto and most projects in crypto is that so much of it is shrouded in a ton of complexity. It's like, when I send money, when I send money through ExpressPay, I don't really care, all the rails that is, moving my money. All I know is my money is getting from one point to another. I feel like one way to, and I don't even look at the generations in terms of age, I just feel like there are a bunch of people in maybe Web 2. Again, no matter how much I hate using the word Web 2, I feel like that's the only way to put it, but all the people in Web 2, there are a bunch of people, trust me, my age, in Web 2 that simply dislike the idea of Web 3. And I don't blame them because, one, it's shrouded in lots of complexity, and also it sounds very scummy. You know what I mean? Like, and looking at the current bear markets, you can see the projects that, most people warned the crypto or Web3 space about, blowing up into thin air. You know what I mean? I just feel like if, as builders and as advocates of the system, we just invested a lot in projects that actually brought a lot of utility, then no one will question the efficiency or even the essence of whatever we're selling. I'll give a few examples. Moving money abroad is hectic. It's crazy. But we're able to do it in seconds. Someone can send me like 10K USD in seconds, and then all I lose is like $1. If he had moved it through the traditional, system, ACH, or, I'd probably lose like 24, maybe, or even $50, or even 100 sometimes. But now I'm able to do it in much less time and much cheaper. This is a use case that is a no-brainer. No one is going to fight you, because then you're actually bringing real value to people. So I feel like the easiest way to actually bridge the gap is just to prove utility.
Actually, so if people knew about this, like, the older generation, or like you don't like to use the term Web 2 guys, so why is then the adoption rate, why isn't it increasing for those guys? Because, it's a no-brainer, right? Trying to transfer money from here to the US using crypto, right? So, but why don't they seem to just...
Have you been on a crypto website? There's one project that I like to use as an example, Fetch. I'm a big investor in Fetch. I own a lot of Fetch tokens. But every time I go on the website, I don't get what they do. And that coin is down like 90%, 90-something percent. And right now I'm like, why did I put money in it? You know what I mean? I don't feel the value in it. And this is someone who is heavily invested in the ecosystem. If you go on any crypto websites, it's just filled with a bunch of jargon, and I get it. VCs will give you money if you sound like, you know what you're doing, but then the layman doesn't care. You know what I mean? Like, there are projects like Bediako, one of my favorite companies. When I was when I spent a year in Lagos, I lived in Lagos for a year, and for me, Bediako was a lifesaver. That's the only way I could move money between my bank account in Ghana and then actually spend in Lagos without having a bank account in Nigeria. Big lifesaver. We just need more projects like that with much clearer messaging. And also, I think one thing that we all need to do as members of the ecosystem is just to do the hard work of outing bad actors. You know, all these NFT projects, you know, promising 1,000% it's just too scammy, you know. So for someone like my dad, who is naturally a skeptic, you know, a pessimist, he's not even trying to hear it, you know, because he's hearing about all the hacks, all the people that are being scammed, sell shares. Come on, you know, it's just not a very, I get it, but for the ordinary man and the skeptics, I don't think we're doing a really good job at helping with adoption.
So how do you balance between, you know, advertising to the younger generation, right, the Gen Zs who actually like, you know, I won't say scammy projects, but it's kind of, I don't know the word to use, but they seem to participate in, you know, NFTs or crypto, right? And the older generation want to just use this thing, you know, to solve their problem. So how do you balance that?
I feel like, for me, personally, I'm a builder, so I'm deeply embedded in the builder ecosystem. I feel like if a lot more people knew, I have made a lot more money from building in the crypto space than my portfolio is down like 80% since last year. I've lost a shit ton of money. Excuse me. I've lost a lot of money, but I have made a lot of money from just building in the space. You know, and I feel like if what people want is money, then there are other ways of introducing them or selling to them other than promising those scammy returns. You know, secondly, I feel like our messaging can be a lot clearer. You know, let's focus a lot on the underlying value, not too much about the tech. And I know as a builder, sometimes, you know, you can get lost in all the details because that's the fun part, you know, for us. But I do feel like we can bring a lot more people in the space if, you know, we just let people know that this is not like magic or anything. It's just a much better way of doing things. You know, previously, if you wanted to pay, if you wanted to send money abroad, then you'd have to go all the way to Western Union. You know, but then companies like World Remit, Wise came in and said, okay, you can just sit at home and then still move money abroad. And this time, what Web3 is saying is that you can still do the same thing, same value. The only thing is that it's a lot cheaper and a lot faster. We're cutting out the middleman, you know, using a distributed, you know, ledger on several computers all over the world to help you move your money much quicker. They don't need to know that. All they need to know is the money is getting to the UK in a couple of seconds or to the US in a couple of seconds. So much clearer messaging and, again, out and bad actors.
Del, Fatima, do you want to ask that?
Again, tying into Jake's and Berima's point regarding user experience, there's a Nigerian startup called Seso, and what they do is they use blockchain with land deeds. Everybody here knows somebody who's had issues as it pertains to land. So that's what they're doing, right? So you register ownership of home on the blockchain so that people can track who owns the house. And similar to what you're saying, their website isn't the easiest, it's not the most user-friendly, but the project is super interesting. And that's an interesting use case to show your parents or grandparents, because that's something that they can relate to.
I have a question. Why are the websites and interfaces so not user-friendly? Is there a reason for that?
Berima can add to it, but I work with a lot of developers, and I often find that developers are builders. They're not marketers. They're not into it looking shiny. Does it work? Yes. And then they will use a lot of technical jargon to explain something super simple. So instead of saying that you can send money with it, they'll spend 5 hours geeking out about their white paper because they spend so much time building it. So essentially there's kind of a disconnect between the two. So you kind of need more people in the ecosystem who can speak like developers but also speak like marketers and then bridge the gap.
Just want to add quickly, so I know we've spoken a lot about how complicated the most Web3 websites are, but there are also some really great Web3 products. And if you're looking to get into crypto, especially in Ghana, I think one of the easiest ways to get started is Bundle. So I got started with Bundle, and I think there's also Binance. Yeah, you can use Binance. Is not that easy, but it also has really great UX, but Bundle, I definitely recommend.
I thought we were meant to be promoting African products.
Bundle is African.
No, Binance.
Oh, I mean, no, Binance, they're definitely invited to the cookouts. They're like, they've been holding the ecosystem down. So
Yeah, just
shout outs to
kidding.
Binance.
All right. So, Dale, what other problems or obstacles is preventing this industry, the Web3 industry, to becoming a full-fledged one, right, in Africa?
Hello. Can you, I would say not just for Africa, but I'll give a scenario. So when I started in the space, I remember, like as far back as 2014, you'd mine the coins, because then you were like competing against everybody, using your servers to try and catch the wave and create your own coins. And I remember one thing that happened was once the coins were created, right, the wallet technology had not moved as quick as developing the actual coins. And so at that time, I think there was a company called Mt. Gox. And Mt. Gox felt that they figured out a way to store crypto. And so a bunch of people put their money there, and Mt. Gox got hacked for 100 million, right? And so what happened is overnight, the market started going down again, right? And then so we had another bear market, we had a crypto winter. So this, for those that are new, this bear market is not new, right? And it will keep happening until the industry builds more resilience, right? It's natural. And that may sound unnatural to those who kind of are more focused on a more tangible way of doing business. But I would say that what the trend, right, with the obstacles is the technology always goes through a cycle where it comes face to face with things that we are not prepared for. And then the system breaks down. Now when the system breaks down, the system builds more resilience, right? And then as the system builds more resilience, policies change, companies decide to build or look at unique strategies to become more robust. So directly, the obstacles that we face are somewhat natural obstacles that comes with building a new industry. And then there are obviously obstacles around policy. That's the major obstacle at the moment. So I'm divided on this. So on one side, you have stakeholders or governments who are very interested and open to helping. They just don't understand enough. And even if they do understand and very, very astute as into the industry, there aren't enough good actors who are promoting the right products for them to build confidence. Because we also have to understand that we have a responsibility to build confidence into the ecosystem by good marketing, making it very easy for people to understand and access things that actually are needs and wants for people in their everyday lives, right? And then you have governments who just think it's an outright scam. Very, very established business people, for example, whether it's your Warren Buffett, it's your Gates, it's your, people that are just like, this is not it. They don't understand it, they have no concept. And when people like that speak, it reverberates globally. And so that's kind of like the paradox that we're in at the moment. So I'll definitely say like policy and just the speed at which the technology needs to keep getting developed so that it can actually become more robust.
Can I say something? So I think as I'm listening and reflecting on crypto conversation, but this is in relation to crypto specifically, but especially in that arena, I find that it's shrouded with a lot of volatility, which is also another reason it doesn't resonate, especially on the continent, right? So a lot of people I know who have invested in crypto say, oh, I invested what I was willing to lose, right? Now, that already then cuts out a lot of people who are not really willing to lose any money, right? And so that's something that the investor confidence in that way of getting people to actually engage in tech with their real money that could be doing other things. When we're talking about cycles that go up and down and hacking being a normal thing and all that, it creates a lot of anxiety around that. And then it creates this niche group of people who probably have extra income to invest in things, which is a very small proportion of the population on this continent. So how do we move that? How do we create that confidence? Or how do we bring people in at levels where they can engage with it without actually losing? That's, you can't guarantee that, right? But how do we make people more comfortable? Because you look at things like, well, mobile money is not really like the best example, but even like using something like Express Pay, there's this instantaneous nature and this security in those things that have made people throw their weights behind it almost immediately. How can that be achieved with crypto?
That's a very good question, and I'll try not to ruin the other guy's panel coming up. But sorry. I will say that, so I look at crypto specifically, right? And this is not necessarily going to be the best analogy, but it's one that I think we all can resonate with. So the concept of planes, right? Mm-hmm. It's actually nuts if you think about it. To put yourself in the air and rely on another human to get you overseas, 6 hours, over thousands of miles, right? And guess what? How we got there is by people actually flying and crashing planes and dying. As weird as that sounds, right? It sounds so normal to just say I'm taking a plane, but if you conceptually think about it, a lot of people died and crashed planes to make it to actually understand how it works, to, get it to the point that it has. So I think one of the areas that we could definitely improve on is back to the point on messaging and making it very, very simple. Well, education, actually. Making it very simple for people to understand how this thing actually works. Because people don't really understand it to the point that you were making. And also, are there products that are a lot more stable, right? That people can use, right? That normal layman can use in their daily lives. That's not going to affect, it's not going to be an investment. It doesn't have to be an investment. It just be something they use to buy stuff. Right? And it's just easier to kind of use, something that if we give to your office and you're explaining it to the youth as an example, it's clear. I definitely think you've asked the right question and a very important one on that note. I think also we need to internally start to take those questions that you're asking very seriously. I think the problem that we have in the crypto communities is very rebellious. Because the whole concept of how it came together was to rebel against the current economic system. And so that rebel mentality, right, does not allow some of the people in the community to listen to the basic standard economy that we're used to operating in. So I think those are some of the things that we need to take into account. And actually, this question is a very good question, one I'll be thinking about for a long time. So thank you.
Berima, Fatima, any addition? Good. All right, I think this is the end of our panel session. A round of applause for our panelists, please. So we'll be taking questions from the audience. If you have any question, you can raise your hand and the mic will get to you.
Thank you. So my name is Eric, and an amazing conversation there. I started my blockchain journey in Nigeria, Abuja, back in 2016. And remember going through the challenges in 2017, the bear market. I just want to add to what the host of this event said. Africa currently is one of the highest adoption when it comes to crypto payments globally, according to chain analysis. P2P is gaining ground in Africa. Why? Number one is economic situation. Two is our monetary policies. Three has to do with our currencies. And just like you said, young people, 65% of the continent is young people. And we have seen opportunity in the Web3. However, like you said, policy direction. If policy of governments, policymakers can tilt towards seeing opportunity, not just the skepticism. Of course, even the Web2, there are a lot of scams in the Web2 is also. Crypto is not devoid of that. However, my point is this. I think we get to a point where we need to begin to see how do we support. I'll quote somebody, Jack Ma said something, that in China, we don't see regulation. We solve the problem before we come back to the regulations. I think we want to put the regulation before the horse. It doesn't work that way. You can't regulate something that you don't understand, which I put before the central bank 2 years ago to set up a sandbox. And today I'm happy they have set up a sandbox in Ghana. The point is this. We have opportunity to redirect and reconfigure our economic situation. Look at the city today. Look at the Naira. Is this how we want to go? The question is, must we be in Africa, for example, and send money within Africa with dollar? Does it make sense to anybody? Why can't I send cedi to somebody in Kenya? And it can be done on a blockchain through stablecoin. Digitize the cedi, digitize the Naira, digitize the shillings. Pay to each other, create a market, a pool of market together. So I think the blockchain, for me, listen to this conversation, it goes beyond crypto. Crypto is not blockchain. Crypto is not blockchain. It's one of the output of the blockchain. So guys, I believe that this conversation is something I'm so passionate about. Anyway, we have to have this conversation, and especially when I see government officials, and Jake, you are here, we need to begin to look into how we want to see the next 5 years of Africa. The way our economy is going today, we cannot sustain it if we don't look at how we can build more solutions using the blockchain. It's the first innovation that nobody owns it. That's what brings opportunity for us as Africans. Nobody owns the IP. I see Yele here building amazing stuff. This is the opportunity, and young people today know that it's opportunity. They are not waiting for nobody. The future for everything, we can build a policy around move money, building capacity, training, education, and building that to export talent, just like India did. Just a contribution to this. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Is this working? All right.
So the next set of
one,
questions should be short, please.
Okay,
Thank you. And thanks for the contribution.
Thank you.
Okay. My name is Mariam, and just to add up to what our brother Eric said, so my experience with it...
Sorry, excuse me. 1 minute. Is this a question or a contribution?
Well,
We're looking for questions, guys. Because of the time, we have to
right.
be very mindful.
Yeah, so...
Thank you.
Yeah, adding up with a question. Okay, so with what he said, my experience with blockchain was when I got introduced to it, the question I asked was, if it's not down to my level, how can I use it? Because I don't know anyone to send money to outside, or I don't know anything about this investment on this investment in technology stuff. So my question is, how do we bring it down to the lowest level for young people to get to understand and be part of it? Because if, as he said, the currency is in dollars, and I use CDs, and I know I'm not going to use dollars, as you said, because if I'm not going to use it, why would I join? So that's my question. How do we bring it down to us for us to understand more and join the community?
Thank you for that question. Very brilliant question. I'm not going to answer that, so yeah.
Just hold on.
Should I? All right. I think with your question, it's going to sound very simple, but something to consider is what underpins what we're doing is the blockchain, right? But there's so many other universes within the Web3 space. So I think for young people, what I would advise, listen, if you are a whiz kid and you know how to invest in your bedroom, and you know there are these young teenagers that are making millions in their room, more so than me and others here. Well, I don't know for Berima or Jake, but I'm speaking for myself and Fatima, I don't know. But you know, that's brilliant. But I would say that the way to approach it is engaging with the community, right? Outside, because now through the power of like social media, very easy to communicate with people that you don't live in the same country as you. So I'd use the same philosophy when it comes to blockchain and Web3, rather than just looking through the lens of investment, because that's the problem we have with crypto particularly. Everyone only looks at it through the, the lens of investment, when there's so much more to it than that, right? And to the point that gentleman made, if it wasn't even for the blockchain, we wouldn't be in this position. And so I would say, to answer your question directly, we should look at engaging communities within the ecosystem outside of the country, and also outside of just purely investing. And then that way you can start to get more insight to what other people are doing in the space that could actually be more tailored to what you're looking for. Hope that helps.
Does anyone want to add to that? Okay, sorry, we won't be taking more questions. Maybe you can meet the panelists after this session. Time's up. So thank you guys for this.